Okay. We're in this cruddy little apartment in the middle of old part of this town called Gaithersburg. We're in the second cheapest apartment in the county. Not really exciting. My wife delivered our second child, which was my son. And when that happened, I stayed home, and I didn't go in and I didn't get paid, and I stayed home and I programmed the first version of what would become CLIP, Computerized Lawn Industry Program. And we did it on rice and beans, and we did it by draining our savings and not spending money we didn't have, but we took the money we were saving to actually put a down payment on the house, and we created this software. Did it really cheap. The table I was working on was a piece of plywood that I had purchased because it was cheaper to buy a piece of plywood and put some legs on it than it would have been to buy a little table, a little office. We didn't even have an office. We didn't have a desk. We didn't have anything. But we did it. That's where we started. And we started because why spend money you don't know if you're going to have? In the first year, we sold hardly anything of software. It wasn't until the second year when we figured out how to market it that it started taking off. So those were interesting times. We look back on them. It was cool. That was good. You know, I'd rather not live through those again, but it wasn't too bad.
You're listening to Passing on the Faith, a podcast from Generations. Every week, we bring you a powerful moment from one of our sermons, audiobooks, webinars, or conference talks, handpicked to help you build a strong biblical foundation for your family. This week's episode is a recorded lecture from our Family Economics audio collection entitled 10 Ways to Go Out of Business Fast by Dave Tucker.
10 fastest ways to go out of business. There are probably hundreds and hundreds of them. There are so many more ways to go out of business than there are to go into business. So I sat down and we were talking, we were brainstorming, chatting on the phone with a couple other guys, and I really enjoy doing this stuff. You guys know it. And so we're talking about it. We're like, hey, how about this? How about the 10 fastest ways to go out of business? I said, that's okay, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to use a lot of personal examples of things I've done that haven't really led me out of business yet, but they could have. And I love this company called despair.com. I don't know has anybody spent any time on despair.com? Yeah, it's great. So their motto is all motivational posters don't work, but ours don't work better. Oh yeah. So I have some of these. I used to have these sitting in my business, along with some regular, motivational, oh wow, isn't this beautiful kind of thing. And it was interesting. I was interviewing this guy for a job, and he comes in and I said, hey, what do you think? And it was something like this, something like that. And I said, what do you think about this poster? And he's like, oh yeah, that's really good. And I'm thinking, the guy's not even reading, and he's answering my question like, no, not that guy. So mistakes. It could be that the purpose of your life is only to serve as a warning to others. That's sad, There's another one that has French fries. Has anybody seen the poster, the thing of McDonald's French fries? It says, it's something like aspirations or something like that. Well, not all of us can be astronauts. We need somebody to actually serve in McDonald's and do that. So it's funny. If you like business, go to despair.com and just spend some time on that website and look at some of these posters. They're hilarious. But in this case, we're talking about that, mistakes, the 10 greatest mistakes that we can make. And of course, I don't know, there's lots of them and lots of different ways. We're going to look at a few of them. And we're going to look at the mistake, and then we're going to look at what would the solution be to that mistake, what would have kept it from happening or something like that. So first off is starting a business without a plan, without a business plan. How many of you guys know what a business plan is? Okay, a number of you. A business plan could be something as small as, I think I'm going to sell widgets, and I'm going to sell this many widgets, and it's going to cost me this much to make them, and this is what I think I can do. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be a big, long, involved thing. I think sometimes what we do is we make jobs more complicated or bigger than they actually are, and that way we get out of them. We say, we'll do that again later. Have you seen that poster that was on the door? It says, procrastinators meeting delayed until next week. Only a few of you guys got that one. Okay. That's because you're still waiting until next week to go to it, aren't you? But a lot of times we do that. So some of the things I'd like to hear from somebody if they're talking about their business is, well, what are you going to sell? Nothing in business happens without a sale. Nothing happens without a sale. People, and like I said, we like to watch Shark Tank. Some of the other things that we watch is there's one called The Prophet. Has anybody seen that one? With Marcus Lemonis? He's the guy who owns Camping World, and he goes around, he tries to buy into businesses and fix them. It's called The Prophet, Profit, not prophetic, but profit. And I go to YouTube, go to whatever, get those and watch those, because that's all business education. That's all things that you're going to learn. But the first thing that happens is there has to be a sale. Somebody's got to buy what you're going to offer. So what are you going to sell? And I was talking with a business guy just last week who called me. I was talking to Chad about it. This person decided he was going to do a certain thing. I'm not going to give out a lot of details in case, anyway. He decides he's going to do a certain thing, and so he builds a building on his property. He buys a very expensive piece of equipment. He puts it in the building. He then teaches himself how to use this equipment. It's pretty involved. He figures out that he's going to have to sell between 300 and 500 pounds per day of this product that he's going to be making in order to break even. And he called me and he said, I don't have any customers. I don't know where I'm going to sell it. A business isn't a business if you don't have sales. And so the first thing is, I started to come up with ideas of but that's where it should have been started. That's where you start. You don't want to create this product and say, this is the greatest product there ever was, but I don't have any sales. Nobody wants to buy it. I have a product like that. I've had a few products like that. A product where I know it's a great product. I know it would really help people. But for some reason, I can't find that sweet spot. I can't explain it to somebody fast enough for it to be worth the money that I'm trying to sell it to. And so, what are you going to sell? And if you ever do watch Shark Tank, you'll find out that Kevin, the Mr. Wonderful, he's always the one that says, well, that's so great, fine and dandy, but what are your sales? Always. It's like, but what are your sales? Let's talk numbers. And that's because that's the way it is. Business only works if you're going to sell. The next question is, who is going to buy it? I said in my lawn maintenance company that we're very specific about who our customer is. We have a very specific customer. We want probably a double income, fairly new house, just moved into the area, thinking about whether they're going to mow their grass or they're going to go buy a lawnmower. Very interesting, I was in a Bible study a number of years ago in the area that we service, and for the lawn maintenance company, and this one guy says to me, he said, when he asked me about, we're talking business or something like that, and he asked me about that, he's like, well, what's your perfect customer? And I said this, and I explained about, 6 or 7 different things about our perfect customer, and he says, you know what, you just described me, and I just got one of your flyers, day before yesterday or something. And I said, cool, because that's what I'm going for. We talked about marketing in the panel discussion, said marketing is difficult. It's not difficult because what you're just trying to do is tell people, I have this to sell. I'm here. If you want it, here it is. Very low key. You don't have to force anybody to buy it. You're not selling something good if you have to force them. So who's going to buy it? Define that. How much will it cost to make or to do or to service or to whatever? You need to know that. You need to count your costs. This is before you even go. It's biblical. It says who starts to build a house, a tower, and then doesn't count the cost. How many people are willing to pay what I'm asking? I've seen that in businesses. They come up with the world's best gizmo, but nobody's going to pay that much money for it. There was a guy who was trying to sell this sort of bicycle in the air thing that goes around, and you could put it in your backyard if you wanted to, and it would cost something like $150,000 to install it. And they're like, well, who's going to buy that? Who's going to buy that? It doesn't make sense. And so it's cool and it's neat, but if it costs $150,000 to do, nobody's going to buy it. So you're going to have to give up on that one. So who are they willing to pay, and have I included my own salary in the education? That in the equation. That happens so often. People think, well, I don't have to include my salary because I'm working here. Yes, you do. You have to include your salary in it because if you're not working there, somebody else would have to be working there. We'll talk about that in one of our next mistakes that we have up there. So have I included my own salary in it? So the solution, what's the solution? Write it down. Even if it's only 1 or 2 pages long, doesn't matter. It's going to clarify things as you write it down. As you sit down and you write your business plan out, things are going to become, it's going to lead to questions, and you're going to start asking yourself these questions. Do I know the answer to this? Have I researched it? Why? Why do I think this is the case? Well, I think every third house on the block is going to want my lawn maintenance company. Really? Why do you know that? What in the world gave you that idea? And you're going to have to support your things. Remember, you don't want to run into this starting a business without knowing some of this stuff up front. So the number one problem I would say with people when they have businesses that fail are they never ever sat down and ran the plan all the way to the end on paper. Run it all the way out. Figure out what it is. It only has to be 1 or 2 pages long. It's not much. We're not talking about this huge document. We're talking about something that makes some sense and puts some numbers in there. Okay, number 2, not testing for product viability. Proof of concept. Okay, so now we have this idea. We want to do it. We figured out that we have to sell 300 to 500 pounds of this per day. You think we could do that? Well, how do we know whether we can do it or not? How do we know that anybody's going to buy it? Again, if you watch some of the Shark Tank stuff, you'll see people come up with the weirdest stuff. And they're like, here it is. This one guy came up with an idea of he called it a marriage counseling aid or something like that. And he comes in, he's describing it very like audacious, and this is going to solve marriage problems, and it's going to help everything and all that kind of stuff. And the sharks are kind of interested in seeing what it is that he's going to pull out of that box. When he pulls out the box, you know what it is? It's a little gray elephant. I mean, it's not even the Republican elephant. It's just a little gray stuffed elephant. And they're like, why? And he says, well, if I have a problem with my wife and I needed to talk to her, I'm going to take this gray elephant, I'm going to put it on the coffee table, and she knows that, honey, we need to talk. Well, most guys, when we hear the wife say, honey, we need to talk, what do? Oh, I'm going to be late. I won't be around. It's like, that's stupid. Nobody's going to pay, I forget, what was he charging, $75 or something like that? Some ridiculous thing for a little, it's like just put a little sign there that says we need to talk. I agree with the fact that you need to talk to somebody and say, is now a good time, can we talk? But have you sold it to anyone? Did they come back to buy more? Do you have repeats? Are there other competitors? There's a book, it's not Christian, but there's a book that's called The 4-Hour Workweek. Has anybody read that book?
One of the greatest challenges we have as Christian parents is to pass on the faith to our children, not just in theory, but through the living and active Word of God. That's why we've created Teach Me the Faith. It's a brand new podcast from Generations, and it's based on our Scripture Memory Catechism, helping children learn who God is, what He has done, and how to walk in His ways. One question, one verse, and one simple episode at a time. It's short, it's clear, and it's meant to be done together as a family, on the way to school, around the dinner table, or before bed. So start listening today at teachmethefaith.com. That's teachmethefaith.com.
Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour Workweek. Yeah, we have. 4-Hour Workweek. You got to read that book if you're thinking about going into business. But one of the things he says in that 4-Hour Workweek is do something that everybody else is doing and just do it a little bit better. That's another option. We're always thinking, we have to come up with something new. We have to do something totally different. Lawn maintenance is pretty boring. It's pretty old. It's pretty not very unique, but we're doing it in a different way. Selling blinds is not anything new. Been selling blinds, I don't know how long, but at least 100 years, I would imagine, probably a lot more than that. People have been selling blinds. So what did Steve Rydell do that made it different? How did he get up to be the, where did he say, $150 million company or something like that? I mean, how does he sell that many blinds? And of course, he does the same thing that everybody else, Home Depot, Lowe's, and everybody else was doing, but he does it a little bit different. So who are your competitors? Am I in love with this, or can I be objective? Oh, you see that all the time. People start this business. It's like, but this is so beautiful. This is my baby. It's your business, it's not your baby. Your baby you can love and cuddle, and no matter what they do, you're going to have unconditional love for this baby. But a business, no. A business is something that exists and it has a purpose in its life. And when it loses that purpose in its life, you get rid of it. And you just let it go. As Frozen would say, let it go. Anyway, see, some people watch those movies. Oh. So what's the solution? Get someone to actually pay for your product. Don't start something, don't go whole hog into it until you've gotten somebody to actually pay for your product. Don't go around and ask your friends, would you pay for this? It's easy for your friends to say what? Yes. Get them to take the money out of their pocket and actually pay you. Now you have it. Now that's the best polling you can possibly get, is I actually got somebody to do it. So that's number two. So number one was the business plan. Number two was testing for product viability. Number three, appearing too successful, spending on things before you have sales. Okay, so lawn maintenance, people that get into lawn maintenance quite often get in there because they love equipment. Anything that goes brum, brum. I was talking with a friend of mine, and he was saying that he's having a hard time getting his employees to actually pull weeds. He says they don't want to pull weeds. Pulling weeds is a pain, right? Reach down there, you have to pull up the weeds and stuff like that, weed the garden. I hate that when my mom used to put me on that. I mean, pulling weeds is hard, and he says, what my guys really like is they like machinery. They like stuff that goes brum, brum. He was going to invent a glove with a little tiny 2-cycle engine on top of it, and every time you went like this, it would go rum, rum, rum. It didn't really do anything, but it made noise and smoke and stuff, and those guys would be able to pull weeds better that way, right? No, he never actually sold that. That was product viability, wouldn't have worked. But the idea here is I need a company truck. I need an office. I need all this stuff. Like that gentleman I was telling you about that built a barn and a building and bought all this stuff and put it in place and started when he hadn't even tested the concept yet. He didn't even have a business plan. I asked him, do you have a business plan? He's like, well, other people have asked me that same question. Really? So acting like you have more than you have. We had our neighbors next to us in the previous house that we lived in. The neighbor next to us is a young man, and he had a driver's license, and he decides he wants to get into lawn maintenance. And I said, hey, I forget his name. Do you remember his name? And I said, hey, I know something about lawn maintenance. I could probably help you. He's like, oh yeah, I know it. I got it. Okay. So he goes out there and he buys, first off, he goes off and he buys a truck. He buys a trailer. He buys 3 or 4 brand new lawnmowers. He doesn't have any customers yet, okay? 3 or 4 brand new lawnmowers. And I asked him, I said, where in the world are you getting all the money to do this? He's like, my dad's co-signing. Interesting. Dad's co-signing for it. He's got, it's like, it doesn't matter. I don't have any payments until September. This is in the spring, right? No payments until September. Dad's co-signing for it. A little while later, we had a discussion. I'm like, yeah, those are good mowers. I said, we were talking about cut quality and things like that. And I said, you know, one of the best quality cuts that you can get out there is a lawnmower called Grasshopper. So that's a really good one. So you know what? 3 days later, he's got a brand new Grasshopper. These machines cost between $4,000 and $15,000 each. And so now he's got all this, and then he comes to me and he's like, I talked to his dad. I said, you know what? Your son is kind of overbuying. There's a problem here. He's like, yeah, but you know, they didn't have a good family situation. He said, if I deny going down there and co-signing for this stuff, he gets all mad and we have a big blowout. I said, well, this doesn't look good. So then this guy comes up to me and he says, hey, I got this huge deal to snowplow this park, which is 80 miles away. 80 miles away, he's going to snowplow the park. No, he's going to cut it first. He got the cutting thing, and then he got the snowplow. Got the cutting. I figured out what he was making. He was making, after he paid the guys and he paid the travel time and he got up there and did all that, he was making about $1.75 an hour. Well, he's paying his guys $10 or $12 an hour. This is not going well. And then he says, well, I got the snow plowing contract, so that'll make up for it because they're going to pay me so much money. And I said, okay, the only time you're going to go and snow plow up there is when there's a blizzard. You have to travel 80 miles in your truck first in a blizzard, and then you're going to get there, and then you're going to snowplow the place, and it's, I don't know how many acres, it was a few 100-acre park. Like, this is not looking good. Well, shortly thereafter, he disappeared, I think. He just went off the face of the earth, and I said to his dad, what happened? He's like, well, he just disappeared. Somebody came, repossessed all the equipment. Pretty soon they foreclosed on the house, and the family was gone. Ruined them. Don't do that. Don't do that. Start small. Start with the minimal amount that you need. Don't look successful. I think it's Mike Chaney talks quite often about The Millionaire Next Door. Has anybody read that book? It's a great book, The Millionaire Next Door. The Millionaire Next Door is not the guy in the Porsche. It's not the guy in the Lamborghini. It's usually, you know what most millionaires drive? You know what the model of vehicle that most millionaires drive? Does anybody know? By far and away. You know? Ford F-150. Yep. Most millionaires drive a Ford F-150. Why? Because believe it or not, it's the millionaires, the ones who really do well, are usually not ostentatious. The people with the BMWs, the Porsches and stuff like that, it is possible that they have a lot of money and that they're able to just spend it freely. But most of the time, those guys have everything on payments. It's all on payments. Everything's on payments. They're acting like they're rich and they're not. They'll get to be 65 and they'll have nothing. And so the small business owner is usually the millionaire. If you read that book, The Millionaire Next Door, it's quite telling. Very interesting. Not written by Christians, but a lot of biblical concepts are in there. So don't act like that. What's the solution? It's like, how can I get this started without spending any money? What can I use now that I already have? Or what can I get that will cost me almost nothing to get this started? That's what you need. When I started the software, remember that quite well. That was 27 years ago now? Something like that. How old is Davey, right? 27? Anyway. 27? Okay. We're in this cruddy little apartment in the middle of old part of this town called Gaithersburg. We're in the second cheapest apartment in the county. Not really exciting. My wife delivered our second child, which was my son. And when that happened, I stayed home, and I didn't go in and I didn't get paid, and I stayed home and I programmed the first version of what would become CLIP, Computerized Lawn Industry Program. And we did it on rice and beans, and we did it by draining our savings and not spending money we didn't have, but we took the money we were saving to actually put a down payment on the house, and we created this software. Did it really cheap. The table I was working on was a piece of plywood that I had purchased because it was cheaper to buy a piece of plywood and put some legs on it than it would have been to buy a little table, a little office. We didn't even have an office. We didn't have a desk. We didn't have anything. But we did it. That's where we started. And we started because why spend money you don't know if you're going to have? In the first year, we sold hardly anything of software. It wasn't until the second year when we figured out how to market it that it started taking off. So those were interesting times. We look back on them. It was cool. That was good. You know, I'd rather not live through those again, but it wasn't too bad. So number 4, not understanding the difference between profit and cash flow. Profit and cash flow. We were just talking with somebody out there. They were talking about how they were talking to somebody else and how this person is saying, oh, I'm making all this money because I'm selling to the government or big industry or something. I'm selling to them, but they don't pay me for 90 days. What does that do to you as a businessman person? They don't pay you. What's the difference between cash flow and profit? See, profit might show. If you do a sale, if you do a really big sale and they're going to pay you in 90 days, that shows up on your books right away. Sale is there. So let's say I sold $100,000 worth of something. That's great. But if they haven't written you a check, where's that $100,000? Anybody in accounting know where that $100,000 is? Where is it? Anybody know accounting? Where is it? Accounts what? Receivable. Thank you. I knew there was somebody out there. Accounts receivable. It's not in your checking account yet. Now, on the other hand, you have payroll to meet, and you have to pay your employees. They tend to not like it if you don't pay them. And so you have to pay your employees. Do you have that $100,000? No. It's in accounts receivable. What you have in your checking account is what you have to use to pay either your payroll or the government taxes. And so if you don't understand the difference between the two, between profit and cash flow, you can go out of business very fast. Very fast. And that's what we're talking about, the 10 ways to go out of business. So you can go out of business really fast if you don't understand the difference between that. You've got to watch your cash. One thing that I've done in my company is I keep enough cash in my company to run it for at least a little while before I'm going to have problems. And that gives me the ability to make adjustments to the company. Now, some people, and I've seen it, some business owners, they run on the edge. They're watching I saw this in the company I worked for. They're watching the mail as it comes in to see if somebody paid their bill so that they can make payroll that Friday. Like, that is a hectic way to live. That is a stressful way to live. And we're talking about life here, guys. Decide what your life is supposed to look like and then live that way. Figure out the way to do that. So don't do that. Understand, selling your product or service, giving long terms to pay, seeing profit on paper but not having money to pay payroll. One time during the dot bomb, everybody remember the dot bomb? Around the year 2000 when everybody was, there was money being thrown around, and I have an IT company, and this other company came to me and said, hey, we want to buy you, and here we're going to, do you remember how much? It was like $6 million or something, I don't know, some terrible number. And yeah, we're going to buy you, so sign here on the dotted line. And I didn't sign that I would sell necessarily. I said, I'll give you terms, and if you do come and buy, then, once you give me the cash, show me the cash, then I'll be able to sell this company to you. Well, it dot bombed at that very time. God didn't want us to sell it, obviously. And so the whole deal fell through. In the meantime, they were paying me something like $20,000 or $30,000 a month just to keep the contract open so they could buy me for $6 million if they ever got the money. Well, they never did get the money, but I did collect the $20,000 or $30,000 a month. That was nice, But seeing profit on paper. But I remember when they told us that. You probably remember Darlene, my wife, lovely wife. It's great to be married to one person for 33 years because all these stories are right there. Remember, we went to the Lincoln dealership, and I looked at a Navigator. I'm like, I want a Navigator. I want a Lincoln Navigator, which is the Expedition, but they charge you a lot more money for. And I just looked at it, it's like, green Navigator, wouldn't that be cool? And I was tempted, and the salesperson was like, well, why don't you just buy it now? I said, well, I'm about to get $6 million, and, this is going to be good and all this other stuff. And he said, why don't you just buy it now? And we weren't that stupid, right? We said, no, I'll come back, I'll come back next week. And, Not that time. There have been other times, right? But, you start spending this stuff before the deal is done. Don't do that. Things are going to look good, but just don't. This is common sense stuff. Common sense. It's not that crazy. So solution, everything ends up in the checking account. If your checking account is not growing, you have a problem. Okay? I don't believe in cash accounting. There's two different kinds of accounting. There's accrual and cash. I don't believe in cash accounting. Cash accounting means I look it up on the internet or something. I see my checking account, and I say, hey, there's money in it. Let's spend it. That's how most of us do our household budgets. But that's cash accounting. That doesn't work for a business. You have to have accrual, which means if I had a $100,000 sale, I'll show that I had a $100,000 sale, okay? But ultimately, that money has to end up in the checking account. If it doesn't end up in the checking account, you have a problem. That's one way that you can audit your own company and make sure that it's working. So, not understanding the difference between profit and cash flow. Make sure you have plenty of cash flow going on, just like you would in your house. Make sure you have a little bit socked away so that you can pay. And as your company grows, if it grows, Lord willing, as your company grows, that pocket's going to have to be a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger as time goes on. So, 5, treating your business like a mission. Oh, I see people do this. Well, I want to treat my business as a mission. What do? You hire people. You own a business. Somebody tells you this. You own a business. Give this guy, gal a job. They can't get one anywhere else. That's a problem. If you go into business for yourself, you're going to have these kind of pressures. You're going to have people come up to you and say, okay, this person couldn't get a job anywhere else, so you hire them. Be a good Christian. Help your fellow employee. Well, you know what I realized is that once you start to have some employees, and if you have stockholders in your business as well, once you start to have employees, when you decide to take on an employee that isn't really productive and doesn't really pull their own weight and do what they're supposed to do, you know what you're doing to the rest of the employees? You're actually taking money away from them, because you only have so much money you can put into payroll, and that's it. And by taking that, slicing that pie and saying, I'm going to give it to this person because he needs a job, you are actually taking it away from the others because they can't get raises or they can't get bonuses or whatever because you've got this other person dragging you down. And I've seen a lot of businesses, Christian businesses, that look at their business like a mission instead of as a business. The business, and that's where businessmen get a bad name and all that kind of stuff. It is about profit. It's about creating a system that produces income and produces services for other people. That is a blessing. It's a blessing to others. How many of us have cell phones today? The whole Occupy Wall Street, I think it was ridiculous. They're out there saying, bad corporations, and they're checking their iPhone, which is made by what? Apple. And it's on what? AT&T wireless. And they're drinking their Starbucks. What's going on here? Why are you complaining about big business when these businesses give us such great blessings? It's a wonderful thing. 2 books that we really like. One is, my wife read it, and she told me all about it. Conscious Capitalism. The guy, he's not a Christian, but the guy who did Whole Foods, right? Who founded Whole Foods. Really good. It's sort of like redeeming business. It's like, how should we look at business? The other one is Thou Shalt Prosper, or Thou Shalt Profit. Thou shalt prosper. Thou shalt prosper. It's on the reading list back there. Thou Shalt Prosper. It's a wonderful look at what a blessing business is. Business has been a tremendous blessing to us. We have to look at it. So you can give your product away, it doesn't cost you very much. You get people say that all the time. It's like, okay, well, this is a need, you got to fulfill it. I like to take my business, I like to sort of divide it and say, this is the business and this is my personal. If I want to take money out of the business and give it to me, Dave Tucker, the owner, and then from there, I want to give it away to whoever I can. Go for it. Have fun. But if I'm going to take the business and have the business give money over here, this happened to me because I had a non-Christian working for me. She was in a higher position in the business, and I had given money to a charity of sorts that I thought was, from the company, and she was helping me with the book, so she saw it go through. And she came to me and asked me to give a donation to something I didn't agree with. I don't think it was Planned Parenthood, but it was something like that. And then I said, no, don't really want to do that. And she said, well, why not? And it kind of dawned on me that she's right. She's part of this business. Yes, I'm the owner. But then what I need to do is I should take the money out of the business, give it to myself, and then turn around and give it to whoever I want to. Just like she could do the same thing. When I pay her salary, she can take it, she can give it to whoever she wants. So keep the business separate. The business is not a mission. The other thing you do is, treating your business like a mission, you don't keep good records. Start paying people more than what they're worth. If you want to pay them more, just give them out of your own pocket. Take the money out of the business, turn around, give them something. Solution, the best benefit you can give yourself, others, your church, your employees, is to have a self-sufficient business that produces a profit and pays everyone. That's the biggest benefit that your business can have. So stop thinking and acting like, oh, I'm going to turn this into a mission. It's not a mission. It's a business. Businesses exist to serve and produce product, etc. So, number 6, not paying payroll and income taxes on time. Ignoring Caesar, that's a really fast way to ruin your business. You don't pay it. I was talking with a lady who has a lawn maintenance company, and she's talking about selling it. Up until this point, she has paid all of her employees as if they were contractors. If you guys know the difference between that, what that means is the employee themselves is responsible for the Social Security, which is 15 and something percent, and the employee themselves are supposed to be independent contractors. They're supposed to fill it out themselves. But they were using her equipment. They were told where to go. They were using her trucks to go. They aren't contractors. These are employees. And if any of them, over the past 5 or 6 years, I forget how long the statute of limitations is, but if any of them were to complain to the state labor board, she would have to pay them back money for all the Social Security that she didn't pay. And on top of that, if they had any overtime hours, she would have to pay them all the money for time and a half for all those overtime hours because they were really employees at the time. It's like, guys, I get it. It's hard to pay taxes to the government. I remember one year we did really well. I wrote a check to the IRS for $85,000. Talk about hurting. I wrote a check. Since then, I've learned not to write those checks anymore. So if I'm doing this conference and I'm in the Virgin Islands or someplace that doesn't have an extradition treaty with the United States, no, I'm kidding. But you learn to do your accounting correctly and stuff like that. The Lord blessed us tremendously, but that was hard to do. But go ahead. Get a CPA to help you set the company up correctly. And remember, the customer pays for everything. The customer has to pay the taxes. Not you, the customer has to pay the taxes, so you just pass that through. Make sure you do pay your taxes correctly. Your payroll and your income tax, they'll kill you if you don't. They'll come in, they'll freeze your assets and everything. So, number 7, not firing people. You remember that with what's his name? You're fired. Anyway, not firing people soon enough, hiring the wrong people for the right reasons. I am a perfect hypocrite here standing before you. Because you ask my wife, one of my biggest problems, and one of my biggest problems is, number 1, is I hire too fast and I fire too slowly. And you have to go the other direction. You have to hire slowly and fire fast. Once you know that person is not going to work out, get rid of them. It's not good for you, it's not good for them. What makes a person, great question. Dave Ramsey put me onto this one. If I had the choice to rehire this person today, would I do it? If you ask yourself that question and the answer to that is no, it's time to get rid of them. And I had to get rid of a person that was very key to me this past year, just a couple months ago. It was hard. I should have done it at the beginning of the year, and I waited until August because it was hard. But part of it is this right here, that what makes a person love their job. If you go around and I ask you, if I were to do a poll right now and I were to ask people, do you like your job, yes or no? You would answer me yes or no, and then I would say, why do you like your job? And I will guarantee you that probably 8 out of 10 people are going to give me a reason. Think about it in your head. Do you like or do you not like your job? You don't have to give me an answer. Do you like or do you not like your job? Now, next question is, why do you like or do you not like your job? The answer, 8 out of 10 people are going to give me something that has to do with the people they work with. So they will say, oh, my boss is terrible, yells at me, screams at me, I don't like it. Or they're going to say, oh, the people I work with are great. We have such great times together. Did you get that in your own head? Yes? No? You feel that? When I say, do you like your job or not like your job, didn't it come to you right away? It's who you work with and who you work around. That's usually the case. So if you take, as a business owner, if you keep somebody who just is a sour personality, even though he's good at what he does, but he or she just doesn't mesh with the rest of the employees. Do you know what you're doing? You're making it so that your employees, when somebody at church or somebody outside of the company asks them, do you like your job? They say, no, because I have to work with so-and-so. This came to me a long time ago when I had a support tech And he was good. I mean, he answered people's questions. He was knowledgeable. He was good at that. But he was just a pain to get along with. Just a pain. And finally, the rest of my employees, I'd noticed that I was losing some good employees because they just didn't want to work with this guy. And I thought, I need to get rid of this guy. And he told me, he said, you can't fire me, I know too much. That's when I invented know-it-all. And I got rid of him. I was able to fire him, and everything got so much better. It's like when you pull that sliver out of your foot. It's been bothering you, and you pull it out, and all of a sudden, wow, this feels good. So, solution, remember that the health and survival of your business is what is the most important for those that remain. You're going to have to cull the herd. You're going to have to make sure that your business remains viable. So number 8, what's number 8? Oh, you value, that's important. I'm sorry, I missed that one. One of the reasons why it was so hard for me to fire people was I've never been fired in my life. And I thought, that must be horrible. It must give you a terrible feeling. But the reason why I think it would give you a terrible feeling is because I value my job. You get it? But somebody that doesn't value their job is not going to be affected by you firing them. They're not going to care because the job wasn't an important thing to them to begin with. That's why they weren't showing up on time. That's why they weren't doing a good job. So when I recognized that and I understood that and I said, wait a second, by firing them, I'm not taking this huge valuable thing away from them. I'm taking something away from them that they didn't care about anyway. And that made it a lot easier for me. Not easy, but easier. All right, next, not learning to say no. I need to do everything. I need to do more and more. We're going to have a temptation to be workaholics in our companies. And we're going to have the temptation to just do, because the to-do list will never, ever, ever end. It's like this little thing about don't sweat the small stuff. It says everybody dies with a to-do list. Undone, unfinished. And that's the truth. Our to-do list will always be there. It'll be more and more and more. And I remember one time, my wife came up to me, this was many years ago, and she's like, are you going to participate in the family or not? I'm like, whoa. Well, I rush home. I get home by 8:30 at night so I can have a quick family devotions before the kids go to bed. No, that's not acceptable. She says to me, I say wives are like chili. If you know anything about chilies, the smaller they are, the hotter they are. Well, mine's pretty small, 5'1". Anyway, so she says to me, I think you need to be home more. And I said, what time do you think I need to be home? And she says 6:30. Should have said 6, but she said 6:30. So I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll be home at 6:30. She was right. It wasn't that she was telling me what to do, but it made sense. It was the correct thing. So I started coming home at 6:30, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm never going to be able to get done everything that has to be done. It's just I can't do it. This company is going to suffer. It's going to have terrible problems. Because, of course, I'm the smartest and greatest and best person there ever was, right? And so I started thinking about that. I got to leave at 6. So when somebody would walk into my office and say, Dave, we need X, Y, and Z, I started saying no. I started prioritizing what I was doing, and I started saying, no, I can't do that because I'm going to leave at 6, and I have these things to do before I leave. When I started prioritizing it, instead of always saying yes, I started saying no, I won't do, I'll do that, but no. Started getting home at 6:30 on time, and I realized that I was actually accomplishing more in a day than I had when I stayed until 8:30. Interesting thing. So learn to say no or your business will go down, because your whole life isn't your business. There might be seasons where you have to spend a lot of time with your business. Those seasons are going to be there. I had one year where I worked really hard. I worked from home, and I let my office staff handle the office. And I worked from hard, and from home, I would get up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I would work till 2 or 3 o'clock the next morning. I didn't work Sundays, never did work Sundays because I am Sabbatarian about that. But I would just work, programming, trying to come up with a new version. It was when we went from DOS to Windows. That's how long ago it was. And so there will be these seasons, but I sit down with my wife and I say, look, this is going to be a season. We're going to be really busy. And we work on it. So what's the solution? Learn to say no. Prioritize your list. So number 9, prioritize your tasks. There you go. So, number 9, afraid of failure. I failed over and over, and that is why I succeed, Michael Jordan said. Interesting. And we talked about fail. Steve Rydell said fail means find an important lesson, right? That's the acronym for fail. But if you're afraid of failure, you'll never get started. You have paralysis by analysis. And some of you out there are like that. Some of you are chomping at the bit. You want to go in on Monday and you want to resign and get this thing started. Don't do that. But others are saying, I'm not going to move until everything is in order. I need this 500-page business plan. And by the time you're done with the 500th page, the market situation will have changed, so you just have to turn around and do another market research, try and figure out what it is. That's paralysis by analysis. You'll never move. You'll never move. My son and I have a really good relationship between the two of us, because I'm the guy that says, okay, I'm going to jump. I wonder what's below, And he's the guy that says, wait, I don't think I'm ready to jump yet. I'm going to wait a little while, make sure I've got all my calculations and everything. So between the two of us, we work off each other and we try to do that. So paralysis by analysis is one of the things. Deciding not to decide is a decision. You go home this afternoon and you start talking about it and say, hey, what did you think about that? What do you think we're going to do? I don't know, let's not make a decision. I love that one, right, dear? I use that one all the time. We don't need to decide yet. We can let it go. That's a decision. To not decide is a decision. You just made it. You might as well have made another decision. You might as well have done something else. But deciding not to decide is a decision. So what's the solution for me? You put a drop dead date. You say, on this date, I'm going to decide this. And that helps me, because that gives me a little bit of room. It helps my wife to know, hey, there's a deadline to this. He's going to make a decision at some point in time. We got it. We can do that. So on such and such a day, we're going to make a decision. And we go back and forth on that too. Say, hey, you want to come to Kansas City with me or not? I don't know yet. Well, eventually, you got to make a decision, so I have to make plane reservations. So set a drop date. That helps. Number 10. The 10th reason why you can go out of business really fast, and that is not starting at all. You get through these 10 reasons, and I don't want to be discouraging about all these 10 ways that you can go out of business, because you know what? It's not as hard as you think. You can do it. It's not that hard. You can start your business. You can get it going. You can start small. You can work it up. No, you don't have to be huge. My software company was started just a few years after Intuit got started. Intuit is the people that make QuickBooks. Well, guess what? Clip isn't in every Sam's Club and every Costco all over the place. And Clip doesn't have anywhere as close to what Intuit has. But that's okay, because Clip has provided for me and my family very, very well. And I'm good with that. I know it took me a long time. At one point in time in my career, I had to decide this is what's called a lifestyle business. This is a lifestyle business. I'm not Steve Rydell. I don't have a $150 million company. I just have a few $1 million company. That's it. And you know what? That's great. That's fine. Because I get to do what I want to do, which is do conferences like this and try to help other people. I get to go to Mexico and I get to do what I want to do down there. And I get to be with my kids and I get to help my kids propel themselves to their next level. I want my kids to be that much farther ahead than we are. We've got some plans, some long-term plans over the next 4 years to move out to Tennessee and buy a big piece of property and then give a lot to each one of my children. And I can do that because the company allows me to do that. And so it gives me this freedom to do those kind of things. I want our generation, my wife and I, to be the point that says, okay, at this point, this happened to our family. At this point, this was able to be done. And I'm good with that. The businesses that God has given me is great. So I don't have to do everything in order yet. You just have to start something. So the solution is do something. Do something here. Don't let this time pass. You came. You spent some money. You came to this thing to learn about something. Now make your decision to go ahead and move that parked car and start moving it out there and see where it goes. So I actually only have 9 minutes and I'm going to end early, if that's okay with you. So my main thing to you is don't get hung up on all the mistakes and everything else. You can do something. Perfect is the enemy of good. Have you heard that before? Perfect is the enemy of good. It's like, I can't do this until it's perfect. Can't do this until it's just right. No, you can't. Let's start with something. We can always come back and do it again and make it better. So you will be able to change and adapt. You can't drive a parked car. So guys, I challenge you. Make a decision to do some step that takes you towards owning your own business, starting your family economy, supplementing maybe the husband's income, doing something, but go for it. Take that step. You never know where it's going to lead you because it can get you to some really exciting places. God is good. He's in front of us. He's taking care of it. This life will soon be past, but it's just a flash like that. Here I am, a grandfather. I can't believe it. Grandfather, from 5th grandchild. It's coming up. It's like unbelievable. It's like, how does time go by like that? But it's great. It's wonderful, and God is with us. So let's move on, and let's do what he wants us to do.
This has been a production of the Generations Media Network. For more information, go to generations.org/media.
Thanks for listening to Passing on the Faith. If you're looking for resources to disciple your kids and build a Christ-centered home, we'd love to help. Generations offers books, curriculum, devotionals, and tools designed to help you pass on the faith to the next generation. And just for our listeners, you can get 15% off your next order. Just use the code PASSING at checkout. That's PASSING for 15% off at generations.org. Thanks for supporting the mission of family discipleship.